Um, yeah, no, that was good stuff, JD. Maybe could you just give like a 2 or 3 minute summary real quick of, how would you talk about where you think this is going with AI and how fast,
Sure.
SMBs are going to be disrupted in what way? Just some like high level thoughts of what you're seeing deep in the weeds with the tech people.
Hey,
So I,
can I ask
Yeah,
one question? And this may
yeah, go ahead.
actually hit you up better, JD, is that I think I don't know where everybody's at on this call in terms of their knowledge set, but for some of us tied to TJ, we've really been using AI as our thought partner, right? And for someone like me who does executive coaching, leadership development, speaking. I'm an author. My book's uploaded. I've created GPTs that have all of my content, transcripts from, you know, a lot
Mhm.
of calls, and it really is able to speak in my tone, my voice, give advice, help me generate plethora of content across all sorts of medium and generate websites and downloadable, magnet workbooks, all sorts of crazy things, right?
Mhm.
So if that some people aren't there yet, that's fine. And then I don't know where to go from here to either what's available today that I'm not using my knowledge set or the tools available, and then it'd be interesting to know like where do we start to monetize some of this stuff outside of buying back our own time, which I've already done, right?
Sure.
Saving costs here. So I'll just throw that out there into the ether as you speak to this a little bit more.
Yeah, I think the way to think about this is the next step is so right now you've created your own knowledge base of all of your AI, and it's probably either in like one place or maybe it's in multiple places. And we keep hearing this term like agents or multi-agents. And where I really think this is going next is we're going to have multi-agents or agents. There's going to be a standard form of communication programmatically through these systems. And so you could have your knowledge base interacting with another knowledge base almost without like a lot of work in order to get that. And so you could monetize in the sense that just like an API, uh, you're almost having LLMs talk to each other, or and you can combine those communications to then go into any kind of output. And when I say output, I mean is it a chat? Is it a website? Is it a phone call? Right? And those connecting those together through like this new kind of communication protocol is really where I see things going next, because then you have LLMs that are actionable on your knowledge base as well, as opposed to just saving you time or saving your clients time by being able to contact you more often. Now you can do actionable events after that. And that's kind of where I see 2025 going, um, is in that world. Robert, I think you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just like I get what you're saying there, but I'm just trying to see like what that means in plain terms, right? Does that mean that Brent's uh, you know, AI agent is going out there and just straight up just getting him clients? Like I don't like what does that mean? Like, okay, Brent's, got all of this repository of everything that he's got, and it's going out. It's talking to other LLMs, but like what toward what end for what purposes? Like what does that actually mean in like just plain terms?
Sure. So I'm just going to make assumptions, and I'll kind of talk about something that we've worked on. So if you think about like coaching, one of the things that we've started working on is like an accountability bot. And so if you have something that has your own knowledge and then is actionably going out and contacting your client base to keep them on track, to understand their problems. And as this client is communicating with your LLM, giving them instant feedback as if it was you, you can almost like tier your business into I want face-to-face time, and that is, X amount. I want the AI implementation of being able to actually communicate in real time, and that's X amount. And I just want the chatbot, and then that's X amount. So you can almost tier your experiences, and also same as you would with an API, right? You could tier those experiences to then have access to other parts of your coaching or your knowledge base. You can almost like segment it.
Mhm.
That's like how I would kind of put it in.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get that. I mean, I'm even doing that for my coaching business where it's like I have just, quick access, even if like an intake for them to be able to just kind of do it that way. Like you do an intake here and you do an intake with me, whatever it may be. Um, I guess I'm just looking at that, how that's not just like a feature on something that they could have access to. I guess I'm trying to understand like how it's going out versus people actually just leveraging it as a tool that are being brought in, or like how much that's
Well,
different than just like a feature.
let me throw out an idea, something that we're building right now. I think it's, I don't know, 80 or 90% done already. And that sounds like it could fit for what Brent's saying. And this is a super kind of simple, quick idea, but I think, in also what JD is saying is the difference between my clients have to go use me versus I go to them, right? And so one of the things we're building is a set, we're just calling it like a daily text, but which is technically what it is. But again, you can think of how this could be expanded in so many ways. But where you could go in and say, hey, I want to send custom advice to my clients based on my, my training data, my knowledge base, and I want to proactively send them whatever you want to send them, right? Hey, a daily quote from me, some feedback based on maybe this is where the combine of the accountability bot could come in. If they told your bot, hey, I'm struggling this week with this, then you could proactively automatically send them in the daily text, hey, I know you're struggling with this. You should try calling, mortgage brokers in the afternoon instead of the morning. And then, I don't know, whatever it is. And these things can happen proactively without you having to do anything, right? Like you set it up and then now you are reaching out, your bot is reaching out to clients on your schedule in the way you want, telling them what you want. And again, you don't have to do anything.
It's
So,
scaling you across
yes.
those channels. It's being responsive in the way that you would be based on your training data. And you're not having to put inputs toward it outside of the training data as to what it would do to respond in those interactions. So that'd be like a chat bot almost type of deal.
Well, in this case, it's like, I mean, they would sign up for this and it would be you proactively reaching out to them every day, right? Because it solves the big problem of, hey, it's cool you have this bot that I can talk to you and ask you questions, but I had a busy day. I didn't get around to, chatting with you. And then I forgot after I didn't do it for 6 days, right? So now we can basically what we're talking about is we're putting in the AI, the custom GPTs, all this stuff into Twilio, right? Which is the outbound text messaging platform, right? So again, it's just switching the come to me when you have an issue to I'm going to you to stay in front of you to give you good ideas and advice, even without you going to ask me.
And that's where the APIs come in. That's what you're talking about, right? Where you're building it,
Yeah.
then the API is going to Twilio. Twilio is then just interacting with your AI agent who's using the API to bridge Twilio to then send out these outbound texts.
How would you describe it,
Yes.
JD?
Yeah, that like and I would almost say like the APIs themselves are like the traditional way of thinking. And there's now what we're talking like moving towards is when I say communication layer, I mean there's like a standard way for the LLMs to almost directly talk server to server. It's still kind of like an API, but it's very specific to an LLM so that like every LLM would know. Every agent would be like, oh, I know how to talk to Twilio. Twilio is no different than talking to Jira. Jira is no different than talking to Salesforce. They're all communicating in a similar way and similar standard, which makes it easier to have the LLM make the decision of how to be actionable, right? And that's like the at least the pieces that I'm seeing that are really interesting because at a certain point, then we start getting into some of the cooler things that I'm having now where it's like you can be actionable on computers. Like, so computer use through Claude is one, right? You can be actionable through the phone. You could be actionable through text message. You could be actionable through like more like humanistic experiences, right? Where like it's watching your screen and making decisions on how to explain like what's going on in a YouTube, or it's making um like doing an analysis in real time. I think like real time agents and experiences is where this is moving to next. Whereas like to TJ's point, before you almost had to like force the AI to interact with you. Now it's like more actionable in the sense where it's like it's trying to bring it to you to make you interact with it.
Where does it exist outside of custom programming where an LLM is taking inputs, exporting outputs and then taking inputs back in without any human touch? Like, does that exist as is for us to use, or is that all custom programming behind the scenes?
It's kind of a loaded question because like to me what you're describing is full autonomy and we're not there. But like could you prompt like I've seen examples of prompting a computer to go do like what we would consider like physical tasks and actually complete them. So pull up Microsoft Word, do a document, write everything out, understand that page, put it all in an email, send it out to your distribution list, like doing actual tasks. And a better one to think about, or like an easier one, is to think about how much robotics has actually advanced in the past year is pretty crazy. Do I think that's going to impact small businesses right out of the gate? Not necessarily, but that input output is really the example of where LLMs are trying to go, where they're being deterministic of how they make decisions. And the agentic AI is like the term that we're kind of talking about.
So Brent, let me just show you this too, or everybody. I know coming back to JD, if I'm explaining this well as far as being an AI agent, just as a quick example here for what's possible, plus the fact that it does it itself, right? So here is, I may have shown this before if you've seen it, guys. Sorry, but we made this website called AI for SMBs. So this entire website is 100% automated. So we don't do anything with this website. I haven't looked at this in like a month, and you can see it's published. It's publishing like about 5 articles a day on the website. When you open it, it's creating these images. It's creating a fake author. It's writing all this content that, again, I'm sure it's very generic. We haven't put any energy into like the quality, which we could do, but we just haven't. And this happens automatically every day. And here's what's doing it is this. So this, again, from my perspective, and I know sometimes I'm the non-technical guy, so I get things wrong, but I like consider this an AI agent, right? Where it's saying, okay, we set this trigger to say 5 times a day, you are to start doing research on the topic of AI or whatever. And then once you do that, then you go and you write a blog post. You use AI to do it based on this is like a custom GPT, right? But it's doing it automatically without us telling it to. And then it's doing all this other stuff of, creating and having somebody edit it, make sure it's good. Then it's like merging them and double checking to make sure they're not, duplicates, and then posting it on the Ghost website. Right. JD, how would you describe what we've done here in your terms?
Yeah, so this is an agent, but it's hard because the term agent gets thrown around. This is like an agent that's a part of a workflow. And when we're talking about agentic AI, it's a little bit different. So where this is almost like deterministic, right? So we're saying this is going to happen once a day. You're going to go out and find the most popular articles, bring them in. You're going to start putting together blog posts. And then you can see it starts to like fan out for different specific sections. Where agentic AI and like this idea of the LLMs themselves and multi-agents kind of being deterministic, like doing their own deterministics, is basically like, think of it as you would tell it to go out and make a blog post, and then it would start to reason like, is this accurate? Is this going to be viral enough? Should I deploy this or push this to let's say you have 5 different newsletters. Pick one of these 5 newsletters and then rank it in the order that it should be. Like there's a lot more reasoning that would go into place where it would kind of like start to evaluate a bit more, right? Whereas ours was more of like a shotgun approach where we're going to kind of like trigger this action and it's kind of like a domino effect of other actions that need to go out and be done.
That's a great way to put it. So the AI gets to make the decision. You can almost think about it as now you have the equivalent of like a person saying, okay, I know we need more blogs, but why do we need more blogs? Where do we need them? What should they be? What's popular right now? And kind of making these decisions as opposed to just following our orders 100% without actually thinking about it. Does that seem reasonable, JD?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Who's
that.
it? Alex? What's
Yeah,
up? Yep.
the way I'm thinking about it is oftentimes like what you show is kind of like a workflow, right? It's AI workflow, there's AI in the mix doing specific tasks. But when I'm thinking about agentic AI, it's really, am I triaging something that's based off of like natural language, or am I doing planning before executing the task, right? Those two types of functions are what you're using the AI agent for solving, right? So you get an email come in, you need to make a decision on how or what action to take from this email. That's a function of triaging, right? And then you give it all sorts of skills or APIs like what they've done to get that output. Or in other scenarios, like coding is a great example, right? Like I want to do A, B, C, D. It's got to think through and plan how does it want to accomplish that goal and then come back with the different steps within the code. So like I think for me, that's the easy way to distinguish an AI workflow versus agentic AI.
Sounds smart to me.
Yep. Nope. That makes
Yeah.
that's odd.
Well, hey, Alex, I was thinking to show everybody something that you just showed me this week that again, I'm doing this every day and it was extremely impressive to me that everybody could just do right now. Again, the question becomes what's the use case, but I mean, I can do it if you can, Alex. I want to give you an opportunity since you showed me about the AI studio from Google. Do you have that up or do you want me to show that, Alex? You're on mute.
Yeah, I can pull it up. It's really not bad.
I mean, it's one of these things that works so cleanly. It's so simple to just do, but it's just so impressive. Again, as with a lot of these tools, kind of to your point, Brent, it's figuring out how to leverage them really comes down to what problem you personally are trying to solve, right? Like what, and I know that's difficult, right? But that's where actually my answer to that would be go into AI and explain this to it, right? Say, hey, here's what I do. I'm starting to learn more about AI. I want to figure out some tools that I can build to help my clients and build my business, and it might give you some good ideas. And then when you see stuff like what you're about to see,
Share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Can you see it right now?
Yep. So guys, this is just aistudio.google.com. And I think as long as you have a Google account, it just lets you write in, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's like a couple of permission things you have to
okay. Yeah. The permissions.
Away and all your data.
Yeah. And then click stream. What does it say? Stream real time on the left.
Yeah. So you're going to want to click here. The link takes you straight there. It's got the live prefix or suffix on the end, dropped in the chat. And this is pretty crazy. Like you can come over here and select, select a voice or whatnot, and it's already on this model. But you can use voice to talk with it in real time, like the other agents, but you can also come over here and just share your screen. So like if I share, I'll just share the entire window.
Okay, it sounds like you want to cheat out the entire window. Is that correct?
It's already talking to me, and I wasn't quite ready to talk to it.
Okay, it seems like you were not quite ready to talk to it. What exactly were you not ready to talk about?
Can you tell me what's on my screen right now?
Certainly, you currently have Google AI Studio open on your screen, specifically the Stream Real-Time section. There are also 2 video players displayed, one of which is a live stream.
Fantastic. I want to actually take a look at this other site over here. Can you tell me how you might use this site that I'm looking at?
Okay, it looks like you've opened Canva. It is a graphic design platform that you can use to create various types of visual content, such as social media posts, presentations, videos, and much more. Would you like me to tell you about any of the specific tools or features in Canva?
I want to create a new image for the company I'm working with. Did you get that?
It get paused.
It might have paused.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of in experiment mode, but
Yeah.
you can see my screen and tell me exactly what's on it. Kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
So what I did yesterday, guys, is my wife's writing a local newsletter here in Austin, and she was like, "We need a better subject line." So just to play with this, I pulled it up and I had the newsletter up on the screen, and I started asking it like, "What, tell me about my newsletter?" And it was like reading it, saying what it was, and I said, "Give me a better subject line." Took a little finagling. The first couple sucked. But then I kind of explained, no, like the goal is to make this thing engaging. I just chit chatted with it while I was looking at my screen, and it gave some really good ideas after, again, not perfect at the start, but like just seeing how good this technology already is unbelievable. Again, what is the use case of this? I don't know. Other than the one I did, but I'm sure there's a lot now, but there'll be a ton more in the future. And it's just good to know that this stuff already exists right now and it works.
Would you be able to train what we just saw there with data?
So right now, you wouldn't be able to necessarily train the LLM with data, but like some examples that I've seen have been like go out and get. I'm just gonna make something up, but like go out and get the game stats for the Detroit Lions against the Vikings and do an analysis on it. So if
Yeah.
you can point it at a data set, then it can pull that into almost like short-term ready memory and kind of ingest it. And then you could start working with it. But it wouldn't necessarily be like fine-tuning in the sense that it's going to be able to be used for like long term, at least
Okay.
right now.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like a use case for that maybe. It's like a while ago I used to do like live resume reviews, right? I was thinking like, could I give it example of my live resume reviews or things that I like when I coach on, say, that type of thing, and then have it just open up something like that, multimodal, looking over the resume and giving feedback live as if it were me.
I see. Um, Not so you wouldn't actually have to fine tune on that, which is a good thing. But I don't think that you could actually use like RAG. I don't think that they're there yet. I definitely think that's something that they'll add, just because it's happening in like real time. But like an example of kind of what you're talking about is you can still like in OpenAI you can use the real time API to do an analysis and talk directly with a PDF.
Mhm.
So you could fine tune that part of it, and then you would have to program the interface to actually have that conversation. So
Yeah, so they could drop in a PDF into it and then have it review that, and then based on the feedback that I've given, be able to do it. That's basically
correct.
what I do now. So I was just curious, like that live aspect's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, Alex, I think that's only been out for like a couple weeks, maybe. It was like a Christmas
Yeah,
drop.
I just saw it like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I've been wanting to test it out, but it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So I'm sure they're going to be adding that. But it's just a question of when, and they always continue to surprise us. Like Google was actually slightly behind, and they just like right before Christmas, they came out of nowhere
Mm-hmm.
and released so much stuff.
Yeah, their Google's video model is the one. I think that's what was used. It's like the best right now, I think. And that video that I posted in the FRD chat, it was freaking incredible. I think that was Google's video tool. But yeah. So hey, JD, not to put you on the spot, do you think I think something that might be valuable to people is just like if you think we could do it in like a couple minutes to just show like a quick example of what a Replit or a V0 or something like how quickly you could chat with it and see a front end? Is that viable quickly, you think, to show, or does that take a while?
Um, we can definitely try it.
Okay, why don't while you pull it up, I just want to give one little story real quick of something that JD and I, somebody we talked to, just to again, a very simple small business thing. Um, Based on what you guys just saw, you saw how good the voice is. AI voice has come so far in about the last, I'd say 6, 7 months ago. It was really, really good, but just not there. And it's basically there now. And so as an example, a guy that I know who has a big pest control company with tons of employees, it's a pretty large company. I had talked to him about AI voice 3 months ago, and he basically shut me down when I even brought it up. He's like, there's no way. My entire business model is we're high end, high touch. We want people to feel great about calling us. Like, I've heard AI voice. No way I'm doing this. Got him on the phone yesterday morning, and he's like, we're signing a contract in 2 weeks to implement AI voice into our business because it's so good. And so anyway, quick little story about just understanding how fast this stuff is moving and how, again, this guy's thankfully smart enough to realize that he was, that wasn't the right attitude because this is so good now and it's coming so fast. People need to be ready to jump on it. So I thought that was a good representation of where all of this stuff is.
Hey, going back to Robert's question earlier about like the resume review, the way I'd be thinking about it isn't necessarily using this real-time like image thing. Like combining what TJ just said, right? You could have just an email inbox and maybe somebody, they're paying you to review the resume. It sends it. You have an agent pick it up, grab the attachment, analyze it the way you've taught it to analyze it, come back with all that information of all the insights and whatnot, and then use a voice dialer, right? With AI voice that's trained on your voice, so it sounds like you, and it calls them up at an appointment time that you guys have set and agreed to, and it can give them the feedback and answer the questions based off of your training and your specific knowledge base. Like you can do that now. The technology already.
That's I love this, Alex. You just brought up a rant. Never occurred to me anything like that, and that makes so much sense. And it doesn't have to be the voice or a call. It could even just be, hey, I review your resume and I give you a report on what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and the system just auto email them the report right back. I mean, that would be the simple version. Yours is a more complicated version. Still doable. And soon enough, it could even be video too. I mean, you probably could do that today. It might be costly and difficult, but you could even have a video review that's you reviewing it, that they could see you and it's not even you. So that's an awesome idea.
It's the scalable aspect of it. I think maybe, Brent, that's when you're talking about like coaching and things like that, like that's the scalability of it just being so one-on-one right now. Ideas like that, because the interview coaching is only one side of what I do, but like just something like that, like a set and forget. Let me just train an AI on how I do these things, and then just have a Dropbox essentially of thousands of people sending resumes for $5, and then they get a hit back immediately with the training that I like. That's pretty scalable.
Yeah, and it's a perfect example too of like, okay, this kind of thing could exist just like, hey, it's a resume review bot, just like in general. But people are going to want to say, hey, I've seen Robert on social media. This guy's super sharp. He has his own attitude toward this stuff. He specifically likes resumes like this. He does so good at getting people more jobs because he knows much more than the general idea. So that's how you can teach the AI to do it the way that you do it, right? Where you're selling your expertise in that way. It's not just a general resume review tool, and that seems really cool, and ability to build on your audience, right?
Yeah. So TJ, I know you have 50 different businesses going, but if you want to start that one with me, we'll talk about it. Okay.
We'll talk about that a little later. Yeah, absolutely. All right, JD, do you think it's possible to show something real quick? Because I remember when you showed me, it was super impressive quickly, and I couldn't. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm gonna kind of do this a little backwards, but so in the amount of time that TJ said, "Hey JD, can you pull this up?" This is not the Google AI Studio. This is actually just a recreation. I took a screenshot and I put it into V0 and I said, recreate this. And so this is the original. And then this is the one that I made. And so literally just taking a screenshot of a website that maybe you like and saying, I want something that looks like this. You can actually like bring that up and start prototyping And one of the things that I like about this is two things. Like, yeah, you can build applications and you might be able to even deploy them, right? Where like in V0, this is again, all I did was take a screenshot and I just said recreate this. And it went through the reasoning of how to go through and build it. It gave me a preview. It actually gave me the code that I needed in order to take this into my editor, but I can also deploy it. So I can deploy it through Vercel, which is what it is. I can share it with others. So I can send this to TJ. I can actually fork off of this and then make a different version. Uh, it to uh, I can actually pull from a Figma file. So, and create specific sections. And it's going to go through and just automatically change it. I can now, this is new. I can actually interact with the console. This is really important for like development. But it's actually going through and rewriting all of the code right now.
Yeah,
Um,
this is so wild. Can
all right, so it's
okay.
now you can see it like generating. Um, and let's see what it came up with.
Oh,
So it
wow.
changed everything to green, and now it has a talk to Gemini button, right? We can change everything over here if we want. We can change the sidebar and just tell it to change things. We could even say something like, I wonder if this will actually launch. No, it won't. Okay. We could have it do animations. So is so put in ROI calculator token use. And it'll again, it'll just go through and change it. And what's interesting is like this is all being done on the web. And then for instance, like I'll actually take this code and just put it in directly into my editor and then do the exact same kind of process that I'm talking about here when this goes back to AI first, where like I'll actually make, while this is loading, I'll actually make instruction files. So this is a boilerplate that I built using an AI first mindset. And I had it generate all my legal documents. I had it generate all my blog posts. I had it write them in Spanish. Um, and here are my instructions. So if I want to do a new blog post, I'm going to tell it the structure that I expect it to be in. I'm going to tell it to, this is how I want the SEO. And then, for instance, if I wanted to create a new one, I could say, so I'm going to add new blog post. So I'm telling it to use this instructions. New blog, PS, and TV. And we're going to kind of push this to the limits and just see. We're going to say we want it in posts in our folder. And then we're going to say search the web for lions. Try that. We'll see if it actually goes out and searches the web. So it's pulled in the the information, and now it's actually, oh, it's going from 2023. So it's not actually going out to the latest through the web, but it is actually writing it in Spanish, and it is writing it in German without me ever telling it to do anything. And so now I have 2 new blog posts in my code base. I could write new code files if I wanted to. It's coming up with tags on its own. It's figuring out the author. Even went out and did an unsplash. I did not expect that. Nope, nope. Okay. But yeah. So that's like that's what I'm trying to show is like not only can you do this on the web, but you can actually pull this directly into your local. So let's instead of this thinking this is code, you could actually think of this as your note taker, right? And you could pull in a bunch of documents or a bunch of URLs from wherever, and you can actually paste those in here and then say you use this style, and it'll know to go out and actually read that file and pull in information.
Yeah,
And
this is pretty powerful stuff. But just to how would you describe this V0 thing, JD, as far as, I think a lot of people are seeing what I see. Again, I'm non-technical, but so many people on YouTube. Greg Eisenberg's a really popular big one. But there's a lot of guys like that who just constantly talking about build your own app right now. You don't have to be technical. You can build an app right now. This is basically what they're talking about, right? Which is
yep.
if you're thinking of an app, go brainstorm it in V0. And then again, you can't, like, non-technical people like me cannot make it a live app, but at least you can get the design, you can get the code, you can work out concepts without a developer and get all of this stuff, get what, I don't know, 50% of the way through in an hour or two for an app that, you're basically the first 5 or 10 grand you would have spent a couple years ago, you can do yourself in an hour now for free or whatever, $20.
Yep.
Does that make sense to you, JD? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like that's what I mean by prototyping. Like, can you get all the way there and build something yourself? You probably can, but when you start talking about you need to connect this to Stripe, you need to connect this to authentication, you need to connect this to your database, like that's where it gets a little trickier. And so I would say it gets you, 50, 80% there, depending on what you're trying to do. And then you just have to wire it up, and you can use AI to wire it up locally.
Hey,
Right.
could I ask a intermediate question before we go too far?
Yep.
I've been using Cursor as well. I was just wondering, how do you get the most out of your Cursor as you're programming? Is it all within the Cursor rules, or is there anything else that you do within
I
Cursor to do
Yeah.
well?
So cursor rules are great. That's where I was showing is like I actually write my own prompts and use those prompts as instructions in my code base. So like if I want to do new feature development, I have an entire prompt that tells me the folder structure. It tells me an example of how I want the naming convention for my file. It is an example of how I actually want to write the functions to connect to my database. I have it, if I need hooks or if I want the UI to look a certain way. I have examples for testing. So, and then like, what are the best practices that I want to use, right? So accessibility, I want to make sure that it's web accessible for, uh, you know, not only screen readers, but SEO follows that, or, error handling. And then I like to give it a checklist. So what are the things that you need to do to reason and mark those things off before this task is complete? So it really is beyond like the whole cursor rules. I mean, cursor rules is great for like project level, like what is your expectation? Or you can even do like the project rules. So I do this as well so that like I can explain, I want it to explain it to me as a principal engineer, not as a junior. And I have a lot of other developers that I work with. Some of them are just getting into the field, and I'm like, don't have it just give you the answer, have it explain to you what it's doing, why it's doing it, so that you can learn. And so like you can define the persona of the AI to be your teacher and explain it back to you. But I actually write instruction, like prompt instruction files, and the way I think of it is, if I was to write this for another human to say, look, these are the code standards that we are going to follow in this particular project for this particular task, like starting a new feature or writing a new blog post, or I had another one where doing the translation, like that, or writing your tests, right? So you could say another one would be, let's just go through this and give it a shot. Uh, I need an instruction file to prompt you to test, to write the best tests, or best practices. That's test practices. Use these instructions. And then I think I might have a test somewhere in here. Anyways, it doesn't matter. We'll just say use first.
What is this one doing, JD?
It's actually writing a prompt right now to instruct me on how to write prompts in the future. So I can't see, so I don't know who is asking, but basically I'm saying like, I want to instruct Cursor to write a file for me to use later on. So these are now, so I literally told the AI, I want you to look at my project, and I want you to look at the examples of the instructions that I've written previously, and I want you to write new instructions for yourself to code how I want you to code.
Yep.
So it's basically like I'm telling it to the rules to follow, and
Yep.
it's coming up with its own prompt of how to do it. And you can actually incorporate like different language, like you could literally write your own uh, language to actually instruct it on how to do this. So now if I wanted to take this best practices, I could say, okay, I'm going to do something new, and I'm gonna, I don't know. I know we're like going overboard, and I want to test this file, use at test.
I see why your composer probably works and mine doesn't, because you give it really good detailed instruction.
Right. And so now it's
I
like,
always have to work in chat.
yeah. And so I mean, these are things that you pick up, right? But like this is what I mean by think about it from like an AI first. And
Yep.
so now it's actually gone through and written the test file for me. So this is my new test. It was put where it thinks, which put it in the exact place that my color mode is. It followed the instructions based on these instructions that I told it to prompt itself on how to do based on how my project is set up. And this is what I mean by like, we're getting closer to autonomous, where like I didn't start with, or in an AI first mindset, I didn't start with go write me a test. I started with write yourself instructions to write tests based on everything that you know about this project, right? And so it's just a different way of thinking, in my opinion.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, just the quick overview here of everything you just said. I mean, it sounds to me like how you would have done development and code like this 2-3 years ago. I mean, this has sped up everything. I don't know, 80%. Like you can get through things. I mean, that's just a complete game changer in how this all is done in 2 years, or maybe 1 year. I mean, it's unbelievable. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, JD, and thanks everybody who's on. Anybody have any final questions or I don't know, Nick and Brent, anybody got anything?
No, I mean, I appreciate you taking me through that.
Yeah.
I've been kind of learning how to code the last few months, just talking to Claude through
Yeah.
Cursor. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to see a real pro do it.
There you go. There you go. Well, yeah, thanks everyone for jumping on. And again, feel free to reach out to us. We have the Facebook group. I think everybody's in it. We'll send out a newsletter. But yeah, we just want to be here to help. So everyone, feel free to reach out. Cool. All right. Thanks, JD and Alex.
Thank you.
Everybody. All right. See ya.
Thank you.